Hoddu, Hoddu, Djeli Ngoni, depending on where you live, depending on what language one's introduced this instrument to you in. In Pular or Fufulde, it is Hoddu. In other languages, which is commonly known to people as is Jali Ngoni. Right? This instrument is played all over West, North, and parts of Central Africa. So you could say parts of the Sahel region and the Sahara region, pretty much that whole belt going across. This instrument is played by various different ethnic groups, different kinds of style. So this is clearly a early creator of what we call the banjo or the guitar today. There's a few other instruments that are close to this around that time frame that kind of help create what gets pushed into the Middle East and get later pushed into Europe, which gets later brought to the West where ones live today. And on a deeper level, the idea of this was clearly brought in the transatlantic slave trade, because the ones that created the blues and the early banjos here in America and in the Caribbean, they were made out of gourds, like a drum-like body situation, and it was meant to also be percussive on the body to where the body plays, right, at the same time. So overall, we could see what actually created what we call the blues today. When you listen to old music, traditional songs and stuff like played on this instrument, ignorantly people here on the West would believe that these people somehow got a record player or a tape back in the day and they were listening to, you know, American blues artists, and somehow they formulated this sound, when obviously that would be incorrect. It would be that the sound that we're playing here in the West, that once thought they just came up with overnight, was music from their ancestors and music from people that lived amongst their ancestors that they heard in through time. So we could see a series of genetic memory happening within music itself. So that's something interesting to think about when dealing with this instrument. So the body is varies. You know what I'm saying? This was a newer way. This was made like custom. This is a newer way. One day I'll have the guy that made this, I'll probably go live with him on here and have him explain how he goes about making these. Every one he does is unique. Usual ones, they have a round neck, pretty much. Like the whole neck is round, and they usually don't have tuning pegs. They usually use leather as pegs. The strings that are on this instrument as well are really wounded fishing lines. So it's really like getting a few fishing line, you know, a Pacific size, of course, and wound them together as tight as possible to create one string. We see that gets evolved into today. There's a whole bunch of wound strings for electric and acoustic guitars that people use to bring out a certain sound, but here we can see an older way of how ones did it. Obviously, ones had minimal of resources to certain things. Before, they used to use gut strings, like the gut, the inside of the animal, and they would make it as such. They even have some instruments where the string is made out of the hair of like a horse, and it's like so wound up together and it's played. So there's many ways of how one's brought sound out of things. And another key thing that you can notice is that it's fretless. There is no frets anywhere. So there's a whole bunch of notes that you hit that are in between that maybe in the West, here we look at as someone being out of tune or something, or they'll be like, oh, that string is flat, or you're playing the note, but the note's flat or whatever. But like, that is also the nuance of this kind of an instrument. So as a vocalist, as someone that sings mainly as their instrument, I could say that an instrument like this, or like a violin, like other things that are fretless, there's fretless guitars and stuff now, but other instruments that are fretless are really complement the vocalist, because the vocalist in his natural state, especially someone with soul that goes up in octaves, hits a lot of runs, you're constantly going in between different notes. You're never just going C and then like you're at D. You're like C increments in between C going to D flat. It might be at a faster or slower rate depending on the singer, but you're always going in between notes, and sometimes you might be singing in key in key, but you might be like a few things over, a few things sharper, or a few things flat, right? Just a few little markers. And that gives you this nuance in your voice, but from a Western mentality, that would mean that you're out of key or something. But there's a lot of songs that are in the desert regions of Africa, and obviously in the Middle East and in parts of India, places like that, that have this sound where everything is kind of like in between notes that we're usually playing in the Western world. You know what I'm saying? So for instance, let's see. So this is a D in its normal form, right? This is not D sharp yet, but it's halfway in between a D sharp, in between almost halfway to a D sharp, right? Right? Where are we at? We're at the E flat now. E flat, right? Would be the D sharp. And then the D is here, but you have the in-between note. Right? And then you got the E sharp. So you have opportunity, and then the E's over here, right? Actually, right, right there. D, the E is like, yeah, about there. And by itself is a C. C, D, E. F open note, and then a G. Alright. Alright. So this top string, which is open, you probably not see it right now in the light. It's very small. It's a F. It's tuned to an F. Right? This, right? The bottom string, which is also open, right? Meaning it's not something that you can fret, right? This is a 4-string, right? I have a 7-string as well, but this is a 4-string. So you have open note F, open note G. You have fretted G, so this is a G by itself. Obviously, it's a G string. Right, and this is C, so it's F, G, C, G. Right. The skin is made, people tap on the skin. Usually in traditions, ones tap on this string as a percussive, kind of like how ones tap on like a guitar when they're playing acoustic, to kind of be percussive and be like a drum, but this is like a normal to do. In various traditions, ones as well, it's a striking down of the strings, and even when fretting them and playing them, you're going downward. Some people do upward, but the thumb stays up here to play the open. But you could get away with thinking about being a guitar player and playing just with your thumb right here. The only problem with that is that it limits the idea of playing the instrument. My thumb is up here, so now I can hit this string, right? I can go bam, bam, and then now I can go downward on this string.